Hey everyone, thanks for joining another episode of Banking on Experience. I'm your host, James Gilbert. Really excited about today's topic because it's something that I get hounded with every single day, and that's sales pitches via LinkedIn, via email, you name it. We're going to talk about it today. We have a special guest, so stay tuned. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us on this episode of Banking on Experience. Today, we're joined by Amy Downs. Amy, give us a little bit of a background on who you are. What credit union do you work with? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. I am so glad to be here. This is a fun topic and one that definitely gets a lot of us stirred up. I am CEO of a credit union in Oklahoma City, and I have worked for my credit union for over 30 years. So I have been at the same place for a long time. I also actually just wrote a book, since I'm so old and have so many wonderful life experiences, called Hope is a Verb, a story of my impossible transformation and surviving the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. So that's who I am.
So Amy, I haven't had a chance to read your book yet. It's on the list. I have like a queue of books that I read. I'm sure everybody does.
Me too.
You know, for this particular topic, if everybody doesn't know, Amy is also a contributor to the CUInsight blogging community. And how I found her was her article about getting throat punched. Yes, you heard that right. Throat punching is a real thing. Let's talk about that article, why you wrote it, why throat punching. Give us the 2 cents there.
So I got so irritated one day. I had 10, brand new LinkedIn connections who immediately send you a long copy and paste email of their product services and want to jump on a 15-minute call. I had several voicemails, same thing, several emails, like all the different avenues that people have to reach out to try to pitch their product. And I do feel for people. I know we all have to make a living and we have to do this, but what a huge waste of not just my time, because I'm not calling them back, but a waste of their time. It's not effective. And frankly, it's irritating, some of the techniques and the way that they approach. And so I just was fed up, and I typed out this article being, halfway kind of funny, and sent it to the wonderful people over at CUInsight, kind of halfway joking, like, here's an article for you. And they're like, what if we publish this? And I was like, okay, well, I better maybe, schmiz it up a little bit, because I was really irritated when I wrote it. So I did, and I sent it back to him, and I had so much response from that. It's so many people saying, amen, amen. And I think it's gotten worse since we went into COVID. I have seen other people post about this. In fact, just yesterday, a LinkedIn connection, he posted something calling it being pitch slapped. And he was like, I'm just sick of it. I am sick of it.
I saw that. I commented, I'm going to use the pitch slapped because I think it was so great. It's funny, Amy, because we've actually had to go through a transformation a little bit at CRMNEXT, because I think that too often sales folks get caught in this notion of I have a number to hit. I have a number to hit. I have a quota to hit. And because of doing that, then sales folks, leaders want to see activity. And so then they're constantly looking at the activity. Well, how many touches did you get? And did it convert to a deal? We oftentimes forget, I shouldn't say we oftentimes forget, because we always forget that there's a human on the other line. And I think that this topic is near and dear to me, because just like you, I get pitched all day, every day. And I very rarely turn people away from a connection request. And I very rarely am rude about it in any way, shape, or form. I take the approach of trying to coach them. Look, if you're going to send me an email in LinkedIn, it's not hard to know that I'm a giant Utah Jazz fan. Talk to me about sports a little bit, or talk to me about something else that's not related to the sales pitch that I'm going to get from 10 other people the exact same way today.
Amen. Amen. Same here. If anybody did just a hot minute Google, they would find out all kinds of things about me, because I'm an open book, literally. But yet I get messages that are not even connected. Sometimes they're not even connected to my business, to what we do. And so it's a waste. And I'm like you, I'm thinking, are they having to show someone that they've sent out, they're taking action? And so if so, then the problem is actually farther up in the organization. The problem is maybe not with the actual consultant or salesperson, but in how they're being coached and in how they're being evaluated. And the truth is that the real way to get sales, a lot of times it's building a relationship, and that takes time. So we can all smell a sales thing a mile away. And I get it. I mean, I have, we all have things that we need to sell. But I think that you have to really try to almost push that away and think, how do I serve? How can I serve? What problem can I solve? How can I help? And just trust that the sales will come if you're coming from that place of wanting to serve and wanting to help.
I love what you said. Try to serve first. And you're right. Relationships take time. They extend the sales cycle, so to speak, but you're 100% right, especially in the fact that it's driven from the top down. Because if you're a sales leader and you're leading a team, don't focus so much on the metrics. Focus more so on how you're going to personalize the messaging. How are your reps going to do that Google search? Because that's the most important thing that they could do. It's not recording it in the CRM or anything like that. It's literally having that relationship touch point. So I love the fact that you said that. This is why we chose this topic, by the way. This is such a hot topic right now. And you're right. It has gotten way worse since COVID.
It has. And I think it's because, they can't. Well, okay. So I belong to a coaching group that's outside of the financial services industry. And in my mastermind group, or what do you want to call it, there was someone who owned an insurance agency and someone who owned an investment company. And they both were really stressed because they said, in this environment, we can't go knock on doors. We can't, ring the doorbell. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, does that work? I mean, I literally started asking clarifying questions like, so if we weren't in COVID, you would just like randomly go to doors and like ring, like back in the day, like vacuum cleaner salesmen like, and they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, and how does that work for you? And the percentage was really low that they said they actually got, and I said, have you ever thought about building a relationship? Like, you're an insurance person. Have you ever thought about building a relationship with maybe some car salesmen? Maybe get some kind of little referral business going with them to where when they sell that new car, maybe they say, hey, by the way, you need to check your insurance with my buddy John over here at the insurance agent, and then maybe likewise, you let your people know about. And it was like they hadn't thought of it. They were still really stuck back in the old days of cold calling. And, I'm sure it's a numbers game. If you cold call on enough people, somebody's going to bite. But is that really the most efficient? Are you really applying the best leverage? Say you are an expert on, pins. Okay, let's just say you're an expert on pins. What if you wrote an article, in the industry magazine about how to select the best pin? And you don't sell your stuff. You just give, you serve, and you share some knowledge. And then, you have your little tagline, of who you work for. Like, people notice that stuff. You notice who the people are that are giving the talk and becoming the expert in their area and giving away some free information, giving away what they can. Who are you going to look to when you want to buy something? I end up going to those people who have made themselves the experts by providing a whole lot of content to me for free.
Some of the best advice that I've ever gotten from a CEO that I, previously reported to, he told me, you don't have to tell people you're an expert in something. That it comes naturally. And it was such a struggle for me earlier on to figure out, like, all right, how do I bring in my expertise and show people that I can add value here? And what we forget is we do that just by providing value. And once we do that, then we're seen as an expert. and we don't even have to talk about it. So I love the fact that you bring that up. We kind of have two audiences that we're talking to. We have an audience that we're talking to from the perspective of, right, if they're going to sell into us, right, as buying personas, how they need to approach it. But then there's also the approach that I'd like to also touch on, and that's at the credit union. Because here's something that I don't think gets talked about enough. There are so many things that the credit union does to where more businesses should be able to take that as value add and learn from it. Credit unions build relationships better than any business model I've ever seen. They just do it so well. So let's first touch on the topic of, from a credit union's perspective, what can they do, okay, to be more personal and make sure that there is a relationship being drawn there. And then we'll dive into what can sales reps and BDRs do to sell into like you and I.
So I think that when you have a model, you have to be really careful of your, quote, sales and service culture at your shop and make sure that you're leaning in on the service side. And that means training. So, for example, I actually started out as a teller. Okay, so I was a teller back in the day. And I remember always being afraid that somebody would come to me and ask me about IRAs because they scared me. I didn't know anything about them. You can just bet your money I'm not going to cross-sell an IRA because I don't really know about it. Now, the more I began to learn about things and the more I began to learn about interest rates and what products we had, the people that I served, then I wanted to, it came from a place of help. I never once thought I was selling the flavor of the month. Like, oh, we have a credit card. Would you like our credit card? Would you like fries with that? It was, we were running back in the day, remember transfer balance promotions, and there was a transfer balance promotion that was really low. And I knew it was a good deal. So the people that came to my window that I knew and had developed relationships, I told them about it. And I don't think any of them felt sold to. They just felt like, this is Amy at the credit union who's telling me about a good deal that we've got right now. Just as if I walked into a store that I shopped at frequently and they recognized me and they said, oh, hey, we're putting this item on sale. You're being helpful. It's service. But yet that is what really does, at the end of the day, it drives your sales. So I would say really lean into not just a sales culture, but a service culture. And by service, that means training them, making sure they feel comfortable talking about whatever it is you're wanting them to sell. They've got to feel comfortable.
You know what I love about what you just said there is I think way too often sales folks get in the habit of they get a no and then that's it, right? Or they might push. And, if you get a no, there's a reason why you're getting the no at that time. And it just might not be the right time and you might not have provided enough value. But use it as an opportunity to focus more on the service side, provide that added value, provide the education that they need, ask questions without requiring a sell, and provide value without requiring a sell. And that's where I think that's where the value comes in. Let's talk about some examples of when this is done really, really well. Mm-hmm. Do you have one or two examples of someone or a company that's doing it right?
Yeah, I do. I've got kind of one funny story. I don't know if I want to throw him under the bus and say what company he works for, though. So I don't know if that's okay. Let's just say it's a credit union, like a credit union corporate. So after the throat punch article came out, I got a lot of different replies. Well, I got a reply from this one young man who sent me a direct message, and he just said, okay, look, I'm guilty. Like, I read it and you're right, but like, I'm not sure I know what to do. And so I don't know why I had some extra time this day. And I said, well, do you want to jump on a 15-minute call? I think we talked for an hour and a half and I made a new friend. And it was funny because he was truly, I don't think it was like a setup. He truly was like, gave me details about like and we started brainstorming on ways that he could position himself in our industry as an expert and take advantage of some networking opportunities to get out there. And then we began talking about other things that we had in common and building a relationship. And it was funny because in the course of this, I was telling him that at that time I was in the process of writing a book. And at the end, he was like, okay, I want the link. I'm buying a book. In fact, I'm buying two. And so at the end, I was like, so let me get this straight. You're the salesperson, but you didn't sell me anything today, but I did sell you. So, apparently I'm good at this. But he was just interested in not pushing his agenda, but learning and finding more out about me. And it wasn't like a sneaky, like, okay, now I'm going to come at you and sell you. It wasn't that way at all. It literally was just, I want to learn. And I would not hesitate to use him for future business if I was in the market for that, because I have a relationship. And most of the salespeople that I have reached out to, that's exactly what it's been. We've built a relationship first. The people who just redesigned our lobby, the people over at Element, they did a great job of just building a relationship. They were at, I don't even remember what expo or what event it was, but it wasn't that pushy thing. It was just a connection over where to go eat. Like, where's a good place? I heard this one's good. This one's good. Have you tried this one yet? I mean, it was just a conversation. And so I think the more you can just calm down about the leads and the sales and entering whatever you need to enter on HubSpot, like just calm that down and just care about people and just connect with people. And I think you'll get those opportunities if you just do that.
Yeah. The key here is being genuine. And as much as we've all needed human interaction through this COVID thing, we've gotten away from the most innate ability for us to be genuine to each other. And we can't forget also that, especially right now with everything that's going on, people need that even more. They need genuinity. And that's just the reality of it, right? Like we can't shy away from it. So I'm with you 100% there. There's also some things that I think people can be doing to help build that relationship. You've talked about some of them, but what are a couple more things that people could do to help build their relationship or do their research on people before they reach out?
Doing research before you reach out and being very, very thoughtful about how you can add value, not just a manipulative reach out, but like what would the potential connection there be? And when you do reach out, making it very, very specific. I've had a couple of people that have done their research. They figured out I was a cyclist or figured out I was an Ironman. And I've had them approach from that standpoint, just saying, hey, like, I think it's really cool that you're an Ironman. I did Ironman back at this date, and we literally just connect off of that. And they've never even tried to sell me anything. I can see their signature line. I see the company you work for. I see what you sell. But that's one way. Another way is if you have a client that you have gotten to that place where you've built a great relationship with, I've never been offended when I've had somebody that, now you got to have a really good relationship with them, but when they've asked me like, hey, do you know anybody in your credit union network that you think would benefit from what I'm doing? And would you be okay making an introduction? Or, whatever. I have done that before, because if it's somebody that I believe in their services and I'm actually doing it, I don't have a problem doing that. And if I trust that salesperson that I'm not like getting ready to sick a leech on them, then I will do that. And so that's another thing I think you can tap into is who are you serving really, really well? And how can that person help you?
And how about don't pitch slap or you will get throat punched?
Yes, I know, right? I don't know why I picked throat punch. I think it's that was kind of the saying at the moment that some of the kids were saying.
Oh, I think I love it. If we take this from the credit union perspective, credit unions have a lot of data on their members. And I'll just use one data point. We'll use birthday. Okay. So that's one that you have on every member. Oftentimes what's sent is an email, happy birthday, or maybe a really canned postcard, right? If you really want to if you want to personalize the approach here from a sales perspective at a credit union, let's say you're a loan officer and you've established a relationship with them already, or maybe somebody within the credit union has established a relationship and they have some insights, send them a package that they actually really could find value in. Like if they were sending stuff for me, like I'm a Utah Jazz fan, right? send me a Utah Jazz hat and be like, happy birthday. Would love to talk to you more about how this could benefit you, right? Bringing in that personal side of, our channel outreach, not just email and not just LinkedIn, but also making it more tangible for people so that we can actually see the personal touch, I think is very, very important too in today's world.
I agree 100%.
So Amy, the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about was sales and marketing communicating better to the C-level. So at a credit union, that would be how you communicate better to maybe the head of the household, right? And how then you communicate downstream to folks that maybe you don't have a footprint with, maybe they're kids, right? Let's tackle that first, and then let's dive into the other side, which is how sales and marketing can better communicate to literally us as buyers.
Okay, you got to help me with this one. Start with the first one again. So you're talking about how do we market better to our members' head of household?
Yeah. So I want to use it as an example because, again, credit unions do this so well. So what can we learn from credit unions that they're already doing when they have to go under the head of the household and they're talking to the head of the household and trying to get more footprint, right? With the younger generation, the Gen Y, Gen Z coming up, right? Which is a struggle for all credit unions, but they're figuring out how to do it. They're figuring out how to get there.
I see what you're saying. Okay. So, you cannot do a one size fits all. You already spoke to, you've got birth date, right? So you can look at, age demographics. So you can tailor your approach to make sure that your message is actually going to someone who might have a likelihood for that product. So you're not wasting a lot of time and energy presenting something, I don't want to stereotype, but if you're trying to present your, mobile app and mobile deposit, you maybe don't want to be focusing on the person who is 90 years old. I say that my dad is 90 and he uses his mobile phone. So that could be a bad example. But my point is just that you've really got to look at who that message, and I don't think you can necessarily rely on head of household then providing that to other people. I think you have to figure out ways to provide the message to each person and not rely on a person to give the information to other people. I think, maybe if it's a child, yes. But then I also think you have to figure out messages that whether it's, giving the kid the sucker in the drive-through, whatever it is, you have to figure out some kind of message to reach the child as well. So I don't know if I answered that exactly right.
That's perfect. There's no right answer to this, by the way. We should preface it by saying, look, there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different approaches, but I think that you hit the nail on the head. I do think there's value too from the other side of this, which is when I have my team come to me and tell me that they're particularly really high on a product and they're like, yeah, this is awesome. That goes a long ways, because then if they come to me with this research that they've already done, man, that cuts out the amount of time that I have to spend on it and I can make quick decisions. So I also think that there's value in making sure that you're going not just straight to the C-level and you're like, hey, I want to sell to you. And you try and build a relationship there, because that can be a much tougher road.
It may not even be the right person. So I have this happen all the time. And you might need to study the organization to find out, do I think this organization is one that is operating in an old school manner where products do have to first start at the top? Or is this an organization that's very collaborative and cross-functional? If it is, like it's my organization, I'm actually not the person that's going to pitch the product. So people think because I'm the CEO, they want to get me first. That's not what I want to do. We actually take the level of employee that is closest to the product and we have them vet the product. This really freaked out some of my CEO friends, but we did a core search and I gave the decisioning to a carefully selected team for them to vote on the decision of the right core that met all the boxes that we needed to check. And I was a little scared doing that because I thought, okay, maybe this is a little too much. It's a big decision. But really, you need the buy-in of everybody. And so we do it a little different, where we want to make sure that the right people want the product, and it's not the product the CEO saw at an expo and decides we want and is now forcing everybody to do an implementation.
I like that approach a lot. I think that it shows also some trust from the CEO that like you can trust your team to make these decisions for you, because ultimately when it comes down to it, like if you brought on a product yourself, guess what you'd still have to do? You'd still have to train, and you'd have to get buy-off. They'd have to understand the use case enough. So you're actually really cutting down the wall there and cutting down the silo, which I love.
You're flipping it, and they're driving it now. They're driving it to convince us we want to do this. So they're all engaged. They're all in, instead of it the other way around. We're cramming it down. We're trying to flip it the other way.
Well, Amy, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Everyone, remember, if you reach out to Amy, what's the best way for people to do that, Amy?
The best way to reach out to me would be to go to Amazon and buy my book.
No, that's actually perfect. I love it. We're leaving that. And then once you read the book, and
send me a LinkedIn.
And then once you read the book and you have some insight, then reach out to Amy and make it personal. But nonetheless, Amy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, thank you for your time today, and I'd love to have you on again.